All right, YouTube, 7/29 July. We're going to do a little research here on the Edgeboard here this morning. I've not had a chance to do as much as a deep dive as I usually like to. Yesterday was a frustrating day for a lot of experts in this industry, including myself. I only covered the Cincinnati game, early game yesterday, and if you followed that, in the very first inning, Cincinnati has a chance to turn a double play, ends the inning. Instead, there's an error, bases end up loaded, hits a grand slam, ends up losing 6-5. You get out of that inning, who knows? It's always a game of ifs and buts, but that was a bit frustrating. Props did hit that I had on that game, the low bases, the under on the Ks for the pitcher, the opposing pitcher, the Reds. I don't have Sekion. There were several props that hit that made it only a slight loss. It was about a third of a unit loss because I went so heavy on the Reds, not only money line, but also I did the run line. One thing I'm going to start presenting that I don't have presented to put on the board, I'm going to talk to my dev on how to do this. We talk about Edgeboard. One of the things we try to do is show graded bets, graded history, and we're going to start presenting that here, hopefully maybe starting tomorrow. But with that said, I'm just going to go over a couple results here. Yesterday, the best category. And again, what we talk about grading bets means that we show that this is a good over to play and how did that perform. We went 11-4 on MLB RBIs on the over. That returned 103% return on value, and we have a 3% ROI over a 7-day period. So been hitting really well on the Major League RBIs. WNBA points and assist went 11-4 also, 40% ROI. WNBA points and assists has crushed it. So it could be a category you might want to look at. Had a 40% yesterday, 23.5% 7-day, and has a month ROI of close to 10%. It's the number one most consistent category we've seen based on our grading and performance when we determine that the points and assists for a WNBA over is a good simmed bet. Runs over had a good daily return. I wouldn't say it's been as consistent, so I'm not going to really stress you to go to that. The other one that's been, I would say, the unders. The two unders I want to point out that have been pretty consistent. HRR unders and runs scored unders. So on runs scored unders, we had a 14% yesterday return, 4% 7-day, and a 3.5% 30-day. And to be clear, again, what do we think overall is that if you can make 2.5% to 3% ROI return on a monthly basis, that's when you're really in the realm of what we would call consistent betting. To expect you're going to do better than that is, to be honest, unrealistic in the long term. So that's what we see in another category there. We've also had on that HR category a 31% return yesterday, 3.5% 7-day, but it has not. It's basically break even on a monthly basis. There's some individual results on here. To be honest, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna talk to my devs about how much we talk about individual bets. I think that's kind of a. I think that's chasing things when you talk about yesterday's results. Really, what I want to talk to you more about is what categories do we think that we're grading, and we try to grade and see where we're at as an overall smart play. And then clearly the best game you could have bet yesterday was overall props that were tied to the St. Louis and Chicago baseball game. There were 59 props total. It graded out 41-18 with a 70% win percentage at 42.5% return on investment. To be honest, I stayed away from the game. Not too good on me. So there's the Edgeboard report from yesterday. Looking at today, first thing we're going to do again is talk to you a little bit about, one of the big things that I would focus on is using your boost. So today we do have boost in the WNBA streets again. It's another 50% boost. Yesterday, the game that our site said was an elite matchup and positive EV, our best ranked matchup was Caleb McBride on points. Now, since Nafisa Collier's returned, it's kind of lowered her production a little bit, but she did still clear her points by half a point. So it was a winning bet, our highest predicted model for Caleb McBride. It does appear one of the things we've added recently was showing the game date and time. And I'm not 100% sure why it isn't showing here. I will be honest with you. Let's just confirm, because sometimes, see how this one's showing July 29th. Let's just confirm our data is not pulling this in, that Minnesota is playing Toronto again. And this isn't a misread. They do play back-to-backs, and this actually could be, yeah, so we played, Minnesota played Toronto yesterday. They play the Tempo tomorrow. So I think that could be a misread of data. I'll have to talk to my devs on that. I think we go with the safer thing, which is we're going to look at what shows as games that are playing on July 29th as the focus. So it's not importing all game days and times. So that is kind of important, obviously, to take into account. Looking at this here, you know, what do you want to focus on? If you have a 50% boost, I mean, granted, minus 195 is laying a pretty heavy edge, but we've got a +3 favorable matchup. She has hit it not just 70%, but literally hit it 5 out of her last 5. So that's certainly showing good trended data there. Let's see, you know, we're getting far enough into the NBA season. One of the things you really can start looking at, how did she fare head to head versus Atlanta? And for whatever reason, that's not updating. So we're having some trouble here in the Edgeboard streets this morning. I'll point this out to our devs. Looking across the board, I don't see any recent data where she did play Atlanta, but again, pretty consistently hitting threes, 3 threes, 5 straight games, 5 threes. So literally 5 out of 6. I mean, in this instance, you really could look at, and sometimes our models will provide alternative lines. I mean, at the end of the day, it's really going to be, you know, I'm absolutely going to talk to my devs on this one because I'd love to see what we predict simulating 2.5 threes, which I would bet is very close to plus money. So again, what's the goal here? We're thinking that we want to go with something like this where we have the boost. Again, a lot of times our data, you can go on Fanatics, get this at minus 175. The boost is tied to DraftKings, which is 195, which is really pushing the heaviest you can go and still get the boost. So I kind of like this in this angle. There it goes. So things are just taking a little bit of time to pull the data in. So she did play them on May 22nd. And did only hit 1 game. So she's only faced them 1 time. They are a top 50% defense. So there are some things to point out here that do have a couple concerns. Top 25% defense. It is a top 50% pace, though. That's good for threes. I mean, we certainly give 1.5 threes a high probability. So I think when you have something like this, you look at the history, we look at how we, you know, we're looking at plus EV at minus 195 already. Interestingly enough, the 2.5 threes is plus 154. So you could look at this a couple ways. Again, I'm going to talk to our squad about, can we look at getting alt lines here? especially when we want to focus on plus money options. But if we do want to play this, I think using this boost, 50% all-purpose boost makes it 130. I mean, on something like that, when we're getting such massive EV on 1.5 threes at that point, it is our top sim of the night. Literally looking at 70%. We're looking at our recent trended history. You know, one thing that sometimes you try to look at that maybe the line did move. It opened at plus 141 at 2.5, which is interesting. So they did originally want you to play this as a 2.5 point play. You know, I'm going to be an NBA expert, and I'm going to provide a lot of good details for you when it comes to NBA time. Admittedly, and I've said this before, I'm not a WNBA expert. So what do we do here? We maybe look at a couple things. I just want to make sure I'm seeing things trend properly. So what are we seeing with trends with, you know, things that you want to always just double check. What do the minutes look like? What are the minutes trending like? Rock solid. I mean, 33 minutes, 43 minutes, 33, 35, 36, crushing the minutes, clearly taking a ton of threes. I mean, this is, so again, not an educated WNBA player, 8 threes, 6 threes, 5 threes, 8 threes, 7 threes, 11 threes. The only game she didn't shoot a ton of threes was the game she missed. July 7th, she went 0 for 4. So honestly loving this. I mean, the game prior, 4 for 9 on threes. She's taken the threes. She has the minutes. They trust her as a 3-point shooter. So you got a boost. It lets you go up to $50 max wager. I mean, look, everyone has their own betting mind. I think this one makes sense to put, you know, a full unit on, maybe even ladder it. So that's what we're going to do in this instance. We're going to go ahead and play this for a full unit. I'm going to go ahead and place that now. Again, why do we want to play this as a full unit more than anything is because you're getting such EV because of the boost. And threes can be a riskier boost. To be honest, I probably should spend more time when it comes to the WNBA streets. But again, I'm going to talk to my devs. There's some things that have me concerned. We're not showing dates, times. I'm not even sure if this is the correct game. So we got to make sure our data's pulling in. But if I see the top games, clearly a game tonight, clearly has laying some good odds there. Now, what are we going to do to have a little fun? Let's look at this as a 2.5 point play. Like, I would guarantee you that if we looked at this from an EV standpoint, and if it was generating the alternate line, that this would be, if we're plus money, if we're plus EV on a minus 195 with our history, I guarantee we're plus EV on the best I can get Fanatics is plus 150. So you know what? We're going to just slap a real small little, you know, we're going to put a scoop on the top there, a little cherry on the top. That's a tear. I don't know where I'm trying to go with this. But bottom line is we're going with our full unit to make our money with just a small one where we're going to say, let's go the quarter unit and see if we can't make 1.5 times on that quarter unit if she's going to stay hot. 3 games in a row. Let's go. We're rooting for, look how bad I am when it comes to, I mean, I assume it's Azzy Fudd. All right, let's move on to what we know more about here. Let's move on to baseball. I'm going to make some adjusters to my baseball sims. One thing when I go, I do like to pick out the MLB. I like to adjust the odds. When it comes to Major League Baseball, again, much different than WNBA. Now, I will say threes is a little bit more of a binary stat. Like, someone's generally on or off, admittedly there. So certainly know that one can have a little more variance. You know, hopefully we're not catching her on a cold night. Baseball is very binary. So one of the first things you see, our MLB slate points out what it thinks are some highlight games. Some things it's pointing out right off the bat. You go to your MLB slate. Tonight's launch spot, Houston at Los Angeles Angels. Park ranked 6 out of 34 home runs. Airs adding about 11% carry. Both starters hittable. I will tell you, I haven't done a ton of research on this game, But I will say that of the games I pointed out, very interesting. Very rare are you going to tell me that I'm gonna tell you to point out an Angels game at night. Uh, Normally, it's just not a carry game, but it is unusually hot, humid. Um, the barometric pressure actually comes into play when you look at home runs, and this tonight has an unusually low barometric pressure. So, um, interesting game to say the least. I agree with our take. And then, of course, Boston at Oakland. I think we're making another good pointer here. By the way, 9.5 is the over under of the prediction, which it says right there, of Houston and the Angels. Boston at Oakland, highest over under run slate picked of the night at 10.5. Incredibly hot. Wind again looks to be carrying out. So totally agree with these assessments. The Toronto Washington game's interesting. It's 14 miles per hour out, going left to right. It's almost coming in a little bit from some things I'm seeing. I see this a lot when it comes to Washington. So no leans here, it looks like, when we talk about over-unders. I will say that for the most part, there's a lot of low-scoring games predicted tonight, at least from what I saw. It was interesting that probably the games that stood out the most as far as runs scored are our last three games of the night, right? 9.5 predicted at Los Angeles Angels, at Oakland, and at Dodgers. Were three of the highest predicted scoring games. I do think this Cleveland-Cincinnati game has some things to look at there. And then, of course, Washington as well. The Washington, I think, play is very much just looking at elite lefties, in my opinion, when you have that strong of a crosswind, if you're really trying to look at hitting out some dingers. So there's a quick view of that. So right off the bat, we're just going to look at what is our positive EV elite matchups that exist out there. There aren't a ton of plays, like I said, that I was in love with this game on the slate, at least from my initial just quick research. What I will say, who's popping out right off the bat? Let's just go with, again, a guy that's a stud, weather that's favorable. Literally the site's saying we should look at Los Angeles Angels. So Yordan Alvarez, lefty versus righty, 341 average against righties. Look how he lines up against Grayson Rodriguez, right? We love this. He crushes Grayson's main pitchers. Is this pitcher hittable? Yup. Pitch mix? Yup. Fair bullpen. Interesting now. 6 plate appearances. He hasn't done anything against him, which, 6 plate appearances. When did he last face this pitcher? Sometimes, again, it takes a little while for this data to project. Yeah, it's not been this year. So you kind of got to take that into effect, that when you talk about what's actually happening here. So it did just do a refresh on stats, which kind of threw things off there. But let's go ahead and just bring Yordan up. At the end of the day, right, if you want to just point out, and I'm not going to be able to go too terribly long with our stream today. So if you want to just point out a player prop right off the bat, I don't think you can go wrong picking out Yordan Alvarez. What are we showing plus EV right now? We're showing the bases, 2.5 bases is plus EV. Now, what do we know? We're not the only ones that think Yordan Alvarez is going to hit a home run. So right off the bat, when you see plus 175, what's the thing what can I tell you already? One thing I do, FanDuel has a daily dingers promo where you can just pick anybody to hit a home run. I didn't have to look at our stats. I woke up, I heard what's going on. I knew he was playing. So he's my free pick to give me a free boost, right? You're not going to beat. I can promise you 36% chance that home run is at the tops. These Vegas odds are absolute dog shit. So, that's where you really got to now start considering, when I don't even care if you're Yordan Alvarez, you've only hit 3 of 10 home runs. We predict a third chance at home run. Plus 175, to be honest, kind of sucks. So The other thing I don't love about Jordan is that I hate that the Astros bat him second. I got to be honest. That tends to be his spot. What do we project? We project he's batting second. I know that they're going to bat him second. I don't know why they do that. The point of that is I love to, when I have what I consider shitty home run props, to really try to see, can we focus again on RBI props. So we're really just going to now try to seek, what does Jordan look like as a whole? What exists out there? What alternatives exist? Here's what we think as far as an EV edge go. Hold on a second. Let's flip it. All right. So we actually give this some positive EV to get 2 hits, which he did yesterday. So there it is. Positive EV plus you get 250 if the guy hits 2 RBIs, and he's had the same exact, history. Now, we do predict that's a 29%. Is he going to walk? Probably, right? He's batting second in the lineup. If you're a pitcher, you get you get Pena out, who's probably going to lead off. What are you going to do with Jordan now? This is one thing you got to learn when you've got guys that are just crushing you this badly, right? You're going to pitch around the guy. And this guy doesn't have the best control to begin with. So, do you want to just use walks and take your plus EV as part of what's going to happen tonight? Maybe. Again, we consider positive EV anything within 1% because we do think that our data does run conservatively. So, let's just go right now. Let's just look at it. Let's start bringing up some Jordan props. We're going to bet Jordan. There's just no doubt about it, right? One of the best players in baseball. So we do show a plus 192, which is better on DraftKings. One of the things I would say you want to look at is what kind of boost exists. I'm not showing any boost on DraftKings. FanDuel has them at plus 190. I do know that there is a boost on FanDuel, but it's more of a boost that I would prefer to use tied to, a money line. It's a higher, again, home runs have high variance. So do I want to boost something that I'm only going to put a quarter unit play on? Probably not. So, what do you look at this? Is plus 192 plus money? It technically is. That's for your own taste, right? You put a quarter unit play at that money. Are you really getting that much back? I honestly don't know. I wouldn't hate on anyone for saying I'm going to pass at a home run bet that's less. My rule of thumb is 250, 275 minimum. So I'm just going to leave that to you, the viewer, what you think on that, where we're at with that. Let's just look at some of these things that we know exist out there that we do think make sense. Are they going to walk Jordan Alvarez? Probably. I would say that actually has a pretty damn good chance. Let's see where we're at with this. So, again, minus 125 on DK. So right off the bat, I'm not going to be annoyed when they walk them. I'm going to make a small play just to take my money from you when you do this, because you're just going to do it. And now I don't get pissed off when you do it. So let's take our positive EV there. Now from there, what is the play to use? What are we thinking? What do we consider plus EV? What do we not? A 1.5 bases, he's hit the 60% chance. Let's take a look at what bases truly are. It is reading correctly, minus 125. Is that positive EV? What I look at it is he's done the 60% chance, or 60% of the time in very positive weather against a positive pitcher. Like, everything here screams you're going to do this, right? So I don't mind when it's still within range. What would have probably saved you is getting on this bet earlier. Again, is this a bet that you use a boost for? I wouldn't hate on that. In fact, I'd kind of lean towards that. So maybe that's something you use, one of these boost on and go big on. For me, I'm just going to take it as, again, let's make a small profit. I'm not going to bet huge. Nothing's ever a guarantee. I'm going to just put a quarter unit to make a small amount of profit on the basis. What have we done now? We've made 2 small profit plays. So now what do we focus on from there? I think that we're back to, do you want to bet the home run? Do you want to bet the RBIs? How do you want to look at this? I mean, what are we looking at? Are they even giving this guy? I mean, negative money on an RBI is always insane to me. It just is. He's only gotten a half RBI low. I mean, let's look at it. 2 RBIs last game, 1, 0, 0, 0, 2, 0, 2. So how many times has he hit in the last 8 games? Let's look at just the last 8 games. We've hit an RBI 4 of 8 games, 50%. We've hit 2 RBIs, 3 of 8 games. So that's when you kind of look at what is plus money, what's not, what is actually paying. We'll go ahead and look just to make sure. I mean, if the 1 RBI, if we're off, and again, this can happen, if we can get plus money, all right, so you're getting even money on DraftKings. It's not as bad. It's not as bad. It's still going to be negative EV. I think what we're going to do at this point, we've got 2 plays that I think have a pretty good chance of hitting. We get the walk and he rips a hit. He's been getting 2 hits. He gets an extra base. So I think those, we feel pretty good, have a decent chance of happening. So from that standpoint, then what do you want to do? You got a home run at shitty payout, and you've got 2 RBIs at, barely getting you plus EV. Let's see what the 2 RBIs show here. Maybe if that's going to make me, there you go. Plus 280, 2 RBIs on BetMGM. So what do we do in that instance? I think I split it up. Like literally we're talking sprinkles, right? Where you're not going to make a ton. Now, do you want to make a ton of money on Jordan? Sure. Bet crazy, right? Again, everything points to, we just said the Los Angeles Angels looks like it's a pretty good environment for some power tonight. So that's up to you. I think what we're going to do, we're going to go with a couple sprinkles here. Basically taking even like a 5th unit on 2 RBIs and a 5th unit on a home run, just to say, hey, did it happen? I don't feel like an ass when it happened and I didn't have any money on it. Right now, here's the other thing. Again, boost with your home run. Look at it from a much different perspective. That would be my advice to you there. So even if he doesn't hit 2 RBIs, even if he doesn't hit a home run, what did I do here? I think that I'm going to make money because really all he has to do is get a walk to basically break even from what I did. And again, then that's the frustration factor that you don't face now. And then I also went with the bases. I will make money if he just does the bases and the walk is the point there. All right, so let's get back now to business here. We're looking at where do we see positive EV? Where do we see elite matchups? We're going to scroll down more to see if there's any props else that stick out to us. And, what am I looking for? Combinations of plus money, plus EV. Obviously, that's what this category is. Good matchups. Where does it make sense? Eugenio Suarez to strike out twice against Joey Cantillo. I mean, honestly, sure. I'm going to mark that down. The 2 strikeouts, I guess the easiest way to call that is even with a 60% chance of the fact that he's going to do it, 60% he's done it. It is a high variance play. And to be honest, I'm going to scratch this off my list. I'm not even going to look at this, and I'll tell you why. I'm never betting 2 strikeouts at minus money. I don't care, period. If you're trying to guarantee a guy's going to strike out twice in a game, to me, that I do pick 2 strikeout plays. I got to see plus 150 or better. So, yeah, is Suarez sucking? Sure. Am I going to bet that? No, I just can't in that instance. We are going to look at another environment here. Ellie De La Cruz to hit Joey Cantillo. He'll be batting from the right side, which is his better power side, getting plus money. Let's take a look at this one. We are showing 319 versus lefties. We're showing, you know, great hitting changeups, which is an amazing thing that you can do that. Fair enough hitting four-seam fastballs. Obviously, the park is there. The thing I don't love about this, the wind is left to right, and he's going to be batting righty, so that doesn't necessarily work out perfect. Very limited sample size. He hits them. What am I going to do about this one? I think I'm going to write this down as a look at later. This is on the maybe list. I'm not going to crush it as a must play, but I don't hate it. I like that we're getting plus money on this. I mean, essentially, we're saying this is 50-50 to hit, and you're going to get plus money. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's go ahead and look at Skubal versus the Orioles. What we're saying here is that we've got ladders. You know, the line right now, the true line for him was 7.5, to be honest. I think that was the initial line. We're up to 70%. We're at minus 200 odds. This is again where, do you want to make this part of a parlay? I love putting parlays together. 8.5 strikeouts. I was seeing this at plus money earlier. We still think this has a 54% chance of hitting. We see the history. We know where this is at. Baltimore, I mean, what is Baltimore's whiff rate right now, right? Blowing out the park. What I can say about this one that's interesting, last night I made money on Reed Detmer's under 17.5 innings. Why did we decide to do that? I watch a lot of baseball experts, and what's going on right now is we are at the trade deadline, and Tariq Skubal is on the trade block. So the problem you have when you've got a pitcher on the trade block that I just want to point out, and I say this again, I love Tariq Skubal striking out a ton of Orioles, to be frank. I am a little nervous about how much they pitch him. I learn things every day, and you got a pitcher on the trade block. You don't want to risk injury, and you don't want to have teams saying, in other words, there's teams right now today that are already proposing that they're going to go after Tariq Skubal. I don't know why we're not showing let me lower our odds. Something's going on here with recorded outs that it's not wanting to show us how many outs he's supposed to get. And I was going to say, I figured it was an over prop. Let's see if it shows up now. Why are we not showing outs for Tariq Skubal? Interesting. Maybe it's off the board. This is what I'm talking about. So the point being is that there is a lot of buzz that this guy's going to get traded, that this could be his last start, literally his last start as a Tiger. So what am I saying at the end of the day? I think you avoid this. I think you avoid it because there could be shenanigans, right? Is he going to strike out a ton of Baltimore players? 100%. Is he only going to pitch 5 innings? Possibly, right? Possibly. So if you only pitch 5 innings versus him normally pitching 7-8 innings, there goes your strikeout prop possibly. So there's what I'm going to say on that. That's my advice to you out there today. I think it's a pass, and I say that, and again, that's all speculation, 100% speculation on that. What we know for sure is that he's being chased hard by the Dodgers right now. That's been confirmed. There are active talks. So that's the rumor. This will be his last game pitching. Joe Ryan strikeouts against KC. That's another one that, KC, I wouldn't say strike is, he's faced them. He only struck them out 5 times. So I kind of feel where he is a strikeout guy and the alt isn't coming up, I wouldn't say he was at the top of my list for strikeouts. I do like Junior Caminero as a bet. We're probably going to move on here pretty quickly. I'll be honest, there was a couple strikeout props that I'm not seeing pop up at the top of the list. So let's just do a little research real quick. Let's search a few people. There were a couple that did stand out to me that I didn't see listed. So let's look at Seymour, see what the site says on Seymour. I did want to research this a little bit. All right, so for whatever reason, we don't have our pitcher against the Rangers populating properly, so I'm going to have to come back to that. I could be just spelling it wrong. Let's look at our MLB lineup, maybe make sure I'm not missing the boat here on MLB.com. It could be we're misreading who we think the starter is for tonight. We have some lineups out there popping up already. Interesting. So we're not showing the same starters I think we had projected against the Rangers. So I think that's the end of that one. I'll have to go back and take a look at that. And then let's just look at our boy Cam Schlittler. Let's see what we think on him tonight against the White Sox. So against the White Sox, they do only have an average strikeout rate. He has been a bit on fire. We are showing plus EV 50.8%. I'll be honest, I'm kind of leaning towards that one more as something that's a little more reasonable, something I see there. Want to look up one other pitcher prop just to do some research here. We have been seeing a lot of pitchers not getting the same amount of use that they were in the past. And Shane Drohan under 17 and a half outs. We're not in love with it. I'll probably pass based on our data. When he faced San Francisco last, he really only got 12 outs. He's barely clearing it. Hello. What just happened? We did something crazy. Let's get back in here. I'm going to go straight into one last section I really want to focus on, because I'll be honest, there wasn't a ton I loved. I will look up one other one. I had a couple, just guys I wanted to research. It's taking a second here to boot up. So let's get back to MLB. Let's get back to odds that I would prefer to use for MLB. We'll look up a couple other stats here. We're going to call it a day. Today, I'll be honest, there wasn't a ton of player stats that just, jumped off the page. So I want to look up Jake McCarthy and how he suits up here against Griffin Canning. Griffin Canning's dog shit. Very hittable. I will be honest with you that Jake McCarthy, I think, leading off, has a couple props here that definitely interest me. I think looking at the 2.5 HRR, certainly at that plus 200, looks tasty. I think this is another guy that I would look at, even though it's, and again, we're not looking, the San Diego ballpark is not a good power park. It is a good park for just base runners. It's a big park, has a lot of big gaps. So when we talk about extreme pitcher park, yes, it's not great for power, but how he looks against left-handers, how he looks against his types of pitches, what we know about Griffin Canning, how this guy's pitched as a whole. I mean, I would say that going, I think we can get HR at 1.5 when you're talking close to even money for a leadoff hitter who's Jake McCarthy, which you can get 109 on DraftKings is accurate. I think the play that I like here is, again, a bit of a ladder play. And by that, I'm saying let's look at getting our money's worth, our unit on Jake to get the HRR here, which I'm going to play now. And then let's look at this as a 2.5 HRR play also. And if we are truly getting plus 200 or better, I'm going to put a small play on that as a little bit of a, I got to this morning, I'm not good with my term. I got to come up with a much better term for a little sweetener on top or whatever. Literally a fifth unit. I mean, okay, you're going to give me Yordan Alvarez home run props, better odds for him to go 2.5 HRR that he's done 50% of the time against a dog shit pitcher in a wide open park when we know he's going to get his full amount of at-bats. Yeah, I mean, sign me up for it again. It's 35% chance, similar to the home run. I actually kind of like this in this instance here, especially just in general how he's playing. So again, are we saying the 2.5 is going to hit? No, but am I saying you're going to give me those odds against this pitcher? I'm going to put a small little play in there. So there's one I wanted to point out. I do think it's the air is going out to right center in Cincinnati today. I'm not certain, again, when you're talking what is the play for the home run prop in Cincinnati. I haven't really had a chance to research this, but Brady Singer has pitched better lately, is your right-handed pitcher. I think that what I'm trying to point out to you folks is we need to figure out who our left-handed batter is that's going to hit a home run against him. I mean, Chase DeLauder has not hit a home run in 10 games, and it's still only plus 320. So, man, that's who I was going to tell you. Look how he squares up against Brady Singer, though. I mean, this is a +7 favorable matchup. He's hit a home run against Brady Singer in the past. I mean, look, this is the kind of play that, do I love Chase DeLauder for a power hitter? No. He's projected third. Love that. Do I think they pull him out of the game? No. I think he gets a full dose of hits. What do you look at from there? What do we think what do we want to do when we're talking about a Chase DeLauder type scenario against this type of pitcher when he's plus? I mean, what's he most likely to do? Probably hit a single, right? That's what we think. What's he most likely to do? Maybe the HRR. I have learned one thing betting baseball that's kind of interesting. A lot of times a single and an HRR kind of run very similar in odds for these type of players. And so what I do when I look up a player like this, I swear to God, is I'm trying to cover, like, what do we want to do first of all? Well, first of all, I told you, this is kind of funny. I brought this up the other day. I told you that the score.bet sucks. And in general, screw them. But the but is sometimes they've got crazy ass outliers that you don't find on other websites. And I say, if it's anywhere close on odds, anywhere close, screw them. Don't use them. Stick with the more trustworthy sites. Why? They have shitty policies. They're not good people. They don't offer good boost. They're not user friendly. I had a guy get hurt for the Red Sox. The guy fractured his wrist. And between Fanatics and the score, you just lose your bet. He got one bet, fractures his wrist, money lost. And on Fanatics, I'm sitting here in an email conversation because I go, your policy is this guy, I should get my money back. And I got to sit there and talk to somebody. So not a fan. But the big but, plus 375 on the score. This is why you should be on multiple books. This is my advice just in general. Be on multiple books, because where's your outlier? Plus 375 on the score, plus 326 is your next best on FanDuel. So night and day, right? That's when you use these jerks. Then what do? Then we look at, how do we try not to lose money on Chase the Lauder? I mean, the chances are, Brady Singer now again has been better of late. 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs, minus 125, batting third. So you like the fact that he's in a great spot. Single would be more what I'd focus on if he was leading off. But okay, now we got to change our thought process. 50% hit singles. We sim it better. HRR, same sim. Single, I can get even money. This is the kind of thing you want to do. Really, it's, again, throwing out just a couple tidbits for you. This is a very good one. When you're trying to cover maybe a bet you're not sure, you think that the guy has a good chance to hit something, there's your two, right? Go between your single, especially if it's a singles kind of guy. He's not a ton of power guy. He can hit for power now and then. I mean, I don't know how many home runs Chase the Lauder's hit for the year. And I guess I'm wasting my time now, but we're going to go ahead and do it. So Chase the Lauder has hit 11 home runs for the year. Again, recent form, he's not barreling the ball. That's the problem. He's not barreling the ball of late. And it tells you, by the way, let's look at it. What do we know? Why is this the home run a bad bet, right? Why it's probably a bad bet is his quality of contact. He's only barreling the ball 6 point. It's not look, these aren't in the red. This makes me feel a little better. He's getting average smack on the ball. It's the sweet spot for average. The launch, I mean, look, this ain't terrible. This ain't terrible. Let's go for it. Like I said, I already bet it. Plus 375. We're gonna hopefully just not lose money, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover that the guy gets you his single. So I'm gonna put the little bet on the home run there, the quarter unit, and then what we do is we probably put the third unit on the single. So let's, well, apparently I'm not, because apparently I just put a little less than a third unit, because it said I placed the bet already at a little less than a third unit. There is the strategy. So let's look. That's where we're at for today. Now I'm going to move on to one last part that I do like about today. I do think there's some good team matchups out there. So we're going to go take a quick gander here as we wrap up for today. We're going to look at our team matchups and what do we see out there that we like. We're letting this update. It just put in an update through. And maybe I shouldn't have hit that, but it's going to get this updated for us today. Some of the team matchups I saw that I felt are worth looking at. The St. Louis Cardinals are an absolute mess right now. I know them more than most teams. I'm here local in Missouri. The Cardinals are back to looking just in a world of hurt. So what do we think win percentage? What do we think, when we talk about this, what are the two things you want to look at? Is EV edge is probably pretty important, right? Just what do we think has a better chance of hitting than what the site is showing? We just talked about it. Griffin Canning is dog shit. Gabriel Hughes has actually shown some pretty positive signs of life in Colorado. Maybe one of their better young pitchers they're finding. I think that's worth a look. Okay. The Seattle at Dodgers one's interesting to me. I mean, I'm sorry. Seattle showed some offense yesterday. Great. I'm just not ready to do anything pro Seattle right now. I really don't like ever betting against Tampa Bay. This one's the one that, I mean, for only being minus 108 and how bad the Cardinals are playing right now, sorry, Cardinals. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go Cubbies. I got a FanDuel boost. That's where I'm going to use my FanDuel boost. 30% FanDuel boost I get daily with these assholes. One thing to learn about betting, don't be a homer, right? Don't be a homer. And 54.4% chance to win. I'm going to boost and get plus money at the way the Cardinals are playing right now. Dustin May, I mean, there's some variance here because Dustin May has had signs of showing that he can pitch, and he's had games that he looks like absolute dog shit. So we're going to say that, yes, could Dustin May surprise us? Sure. But we're going to go ahead and take our boost. We're going to bump this plus 30%, get our plus 121. We're going to put a unit on that. And sorry, Cardinals. End of story. Full unit placed. Couple last money line bets, maybe things to consider out there. Baltimore, Detroit. Detroit crushed it last game, so I'm not 100% sure on loving going against this. Let's see what our site thinks. Under 7.5 runs. I showed it as under 8 earlier. I would say my thought process on this one, and we don't truly provide a ton on this. Look at this, 14-0. So what do we know? We know that they might pull Tariq Skubal out of the game early. We know that Trevor Rogers has been really good. We think 51%. We think this favors an under. My point on this one is this is your first 5 bet. And I will be honest, our data source is you see the Edgeboard get bigger. You're going to see more of this. We're going to get more data and grow this to be even better. There's so much this site offers. But one thing we're not currently offering is the first 5. This screams under. There's the first 3 under is 2.5. The first 5 we show was 5. Just loved that bet there. I think that's one I'm going to focus on. So there we are. There's our plays of the day. I appreciate you guys joining me here today. We're going to go ahead and call it a day here. Best of luck on the betting streets. There were my top predictions. I really don't have any other home run plays. The terrible money line play was Alvarez, Jordan Alvarez, and then our higher one was this Chase DeLauder in Great American Ballpark. I do think that there's a couple other ones to look at. Again, that wind blowing left to right. Might want to take a look at some lefty in this Toronto-Washington game. I haven't had a chance to fully research that. And then is there a play 10.5 runs with Boston at the A's? So with these later games, that gives you some time to look at those.